As the sun sets on July 17, 1943, the Red Army has not only successfully resisted Hitler's Operation Citadel aimed at eliminating the Kursk salient, but has also initiated its own counteroffensive. Along Kursk's northern front, Soviet forces persistently assault the worn-out left flank of the German Ninth Army, advancing from the direction of Malo-Archangelsk. Captain Rolf Henning's combat group found itself in the direct path of this counterattack. By day's end, the combat group successfully repelled the assault, achieving a decisive victory by eliminating 22 Soviet tanks, some from distances exceeding 2,500 meters. Henning personally accounted for 10 of the kills, and Lieutenant Hermann Feldheim added 11 more to the tally. Both served as vehicle commanders in one of Hitler's newest wonder weapons deployed at Kursk, the heavy tank destroyer Ferdinand. Named in honor of Ferdinand Porsche, the Ferdinand, later renamed the Elefant, exerted a decisive impact in any armored clash it engaged in. The Ferdinand originated as Porsche's unsuccessful submission in the heavy tank competition, vying for what would eventually become the renowned Tiger tank. Due to his friendship with German leader Adolf Hitler, Porsche's design was anticipated to be the victor. However, during test trials in 1942, the Porsche model proved inadequate in deep mud and suffered from mechanical unreliability in its drive system. As a result, the Henschel design was selected. Confident in the success of his design, Porsche had already stockpiled 100 Krupp-built hulls at the Nibelungen tank factory. Following the setback in the heavy tank competition, he submitted a proposal to repurpose these hulls for a heavy tank destroyer. Consequently, in October 1942, an order was issued for the conversion of 90 hulls into the newly conceived tank destroyer. The specifications for this turretless vehicle outlined a maximum frontal armor thickness of 200 mm and the incorporation of the formidable 88 mm Pak 43L71 anti-tank gun, the most powerful in Germany at that time. To address the recoil generated by its main gun, designers extended the back of the casement to the rear of the hull. This adjustment firmly positioned the main gun toward the rear of the chassis, prompting the relocation of the engines to the middle of the vehicle. To enhance its survivability in battle, the Ferdinand's 100 mm hull front armor was effectively doubled by adding a bolted-on plate of an additional 100 mm, rendering the vehicle virtually impenetrable. The armor thickness on both the hull and superstructure sides measured 80 mm, while the tops of both were 30 mm, and the hull bottom was a mere 20 mm thick. The formidable 88 mm Pak 43L71 gun exhibited such power that it could penetrate the front armor of the Soviet IS-2 at a range of 2,300 meters, well before the IS-2 could approach within 500 meters to unleash a round capable of piercing the Ferdinand's armor. On the other hand, the German designers neglected to incorporate a secondary machine gun, ultimately revealing a significant flaw during combat on the Eastern Front. The Germans efficiently constructed the initial 90 Ferdinands in a relatively short period. On March 22nd, the Wehrmacht established two heavy tank destroyer battalions, numbered 653 and 654, each equipped with 45 Ferdinands. Subsequently, on June 8th, Heavy Tank Destroyer Regiment 656 was formed, consolidating the two battalions under the overall command of Oberstleutnant der Reserve Wilhelm Ernst von Jungenfeld. The regiment also included a battalion equipped with the new Sturmpanzer IV. Unfortunately, the battalions had little time for joint training. On June 9th, Heavy Tank Destroyer Regiment 656 embarked on its journey eastward toward Orel, under the command of Field Marshal Walter Model's 9th Army. By July 1st, the various elements of the regiment had reached the designated assembly point. Positioned on the far left wing, the Ferdinand was about to make its combat debut in Operation Citadel. For the initial thrust, both heavy Jagdpanzer battalions would engage on level ground in support of the 86th Infantry Division. After breaking through enemy lines, Regiment 654 would shift its support to the 292nd Infantry Division, also part of the 41st Panzer Corps. The Kursk Railway served as the boundary line, with Regiment 653 deploying east of the railway and Regiment 654 to the west. Unfortunately for the Germans, 6 Ferdinands had to be withdrawn for repairs before the commencement of combat, signaling an ominous start. Operation Citadel commenced at 3:40 a.m. on July 5th. The primary objective for Regiment 656 was Hill 257.7, a key point in the Soviet defenses in the area. The deadly combination of a powerful gun and impenetrable front armor proved highly effective, as the Ferdinand successfully breached the first of 3 Soviet defensive lines. Reports indicated that the regiment destroyed numerous anti-tank guns and 26 T-34 tanks. However, the Ferdinands faced a significant challenge, as dozens of them fell victim to enemy mines during the advance. Numerous Ferdinands suffered disabled tracks and idler arms, with the shock from mine explosions further damaging the vehicle's 2 batteries, which were not anti-shock mounted in the hull. The Ferdinand's engines, underpowered for its weight, were prone to overheating, leading to engine fires. While the Ferdinand initially caught the Soviets off guard, they quickly realized that, like any armored fighting vehicle, the tracks of the Ferdinands were highly vulnerable to anti-tank fire. Due to their substantial size, the Ferdinands became magnets for enemy artillery. As a result, German infantrymen were hesitant to closely follow the heavy Jagdpanzers due to the associated risks. The absence of infantry support proved to be a more significant factor than the lack of a hull machine gun. Post-war tales of Soviet crews disabling Ferdinands with Molotov cocktails have been exaggerated. Despite the regiment successfully achieving all of its objectives, including breaking through the Red Army's first line of defense and significantly weakening the second, only 12 Ferdinands remained operational at the end of the day. The majority of the Ferdinands had their tracks and suspensions disabled due to Soviet mines and anti-tank fire. Additionally, Soviet artillery had completely destroyed 2 of the vehicles. Upon inspection, it was discovered that the engine grating was not thick enough, and the spacing was too wide, allowing shrapnel to penetrate and cripple the engines. The following day, during the drive towards the fortified village of Ponyri, the Ferdinands encountered the Su-152 self-propelled heavy howitzer. While not originally designed as a tank destroyer, the Soviets discovered it was the only vehicle capable of effectively countering the German Tiger tank. Duels at distances of up to 3,000 meters unfolded, resulting in the loss of 1 Ferdinand and the destruction of several Su-152s. The Ferdinand's high-velocity, 88mm cannon, coupled with superior optics, proved to be more effective than the low-velocity 152mm howitzers of the Su-152s. In the ensuing days, Ferdinands continued to contribute to the battles unfolding around the Ponyri rail station. Unfortunately, the number of combat-ready vehicles on any given day remained in the single digits. Nearly all of the tank destroyers were under repair due to damage from mines and mechanical issues, rendering 4 vehicles unsalvageable. The repair shops faced a chronic shortage of spare parts, exacerbating the challenges in restoring damaged Ferdinands. Compounding the issue, the Germans lacked a recovery vehicle capable of towing the heavy Ferdinands. It was only in June that 3 of the remaining hulls were repurposed into maintenance vehicles. Despite these limitations, repair crews managed to bring 20 of the 40 vehicles back into action by July 11th. Even in these relatively small numbers, the Ferdinands played a crucial role in assisting German forces in overcoming the second defensive line and a portion of the third line. As of July 11th, the intense battle around Ponyri had severely depleted German resources, exacting a heavy toll on both personnel and equipment. To address the increasing number of Soviet tank-led attacks on the German flanks, small numbers of Ferdinands were retained. The situation took a sudden turn on July 12th, when the Soviets initiated their own attack in the Ural salient. Initially directed at the 2nd Panzer Army located north of the 9th Army, 10 Ferdinands were dispatched as part of the force sent to the north. Meanwhile, the remaining units of Regiment 656 continued to be heavily engaged in combat in the Ponyri area. On July 13th, Ferdinand 501 of Battalion 654 became disabled in a minefield near Ponyri Station. Following the end of the fighting, the Soviets restored it to operational condition and transported it to the Red Army Proving Grounds at Kubinka for testing and evaluation, where it remains to this day. On the afternoon of July 14th, during the battle for the Ural salient, the 36th Panzer Grenadier Division faced a frontal assault from approximately 400 Soviet tanks belonging to the 1st Guards Tank Corps. In response, Ferdinands from Battalion 653, along with anti-tank elements of the 36th Infantry Division, were swiftly deployed to counter the attack. Despite the limited time and unfamiliarity with the terrain, a combat group composed of all 3 Panzerjäger companies successfully repelled the assault. A single Ferdinand claimed to have knocked out 22 Soviet tanks during this engagement. In the subsequent days, the Ferdinand unquestionably demonstrated its effectiveness in defensive roles by successfully neutralizing a considerable number of Soviet tanks. On the other hand, within the first week of the offensive, 19 Ferdinands had already been classified as total losses. Recognizing the untenable situation, the Germans loaded most of the vehicles from the regiment onto rail cars in Ural, preparing for an evacuation from the salient on July 20th. The 6 vehicles that remained behind played a crucial role in stabilizing the area. As Operation Citadel extended into August and the Germans continued their retreat, Ferdinand losses escalated. The Germans documented 39 Ferdinands as total losses. To prevent their falling into enemy hands, many of the 20 Ferdinands immobilized due to mechanical failures were deliberately blown up by the Germans. The failure to anticipate the need for a recovery vehicle capable of towing the 69-ton Ferdinand proved to be a significant oversight for the Germans. In a belated attempt to address this issue, 3 of the remaining hulls were repurposed into a recovery vehicle, known as the Bergpanzer Ferdinand. On August 6th, Regiment 654 received orders to transfer its remaining Ferdinands to its sister battalion before being redeployed to France, where they would eventually be equipped with the newly designed 45-ton Jagdpanthers. Following Hitler's personal directive, the remaining Ferdinands were sent to a steelworks in Dnipropetrovsk to initiate long overdue repairs. According to one report, from the Kursk offensive until November 1943, Ferdinands from Heavy Tank Destroyer Battalion 653 successfully destroyed approximately 320 Soviet tanks, but suffered the loss of 13 Ferdinands. The entire 656 Tank Destroyer Regiment, during the same period, eliminated around 502 Soviet tanks and 100 other vehicles at the loss of 39 Ferdinands. The Ferdinands demonstrated significant effectiveness when employed behind the lines. Despite lacking a machine gun, a notable weakness, the Ferdinand proved to be a highly effective tank killer during the Battle of Kursk.